we do need to put a bow on the destruction that was Saturday afternoon at Madison Square Garden.
Do we? Can we just forget it?
Well, you have that option.
You're a coalition member, so I think you're doing this to troll a little bit. Can't we just forget it?
No, but by the way,
we just pretend it didn't happen?
I'm very glad that you mentioned the coalition of Knick haters. For one day and one day only, I am resigning as a member of the coalition.
What? Why?
Because today is not a day to troll. Today is a day to have honest conversation. I'm in a very bad place mentally. I'm not mentally healthy today.
Oh, I got it.
And so I'm going to be real. I'm going to be raw, and we're going to have fair conversations. If you don't like what I'm saying, it has nothing to do with anything that has to do with the coalition.
Just don't get upset when the 76ers win the lottery.
The Nets still in the league?
I bet so much money on the 76ers winning the lottery tonight that if, God forbid, you're right, I'm going to buy everybody lunch tomorrow.
Nice.
But the reason I do want to look back on Game 3 is I was very surprised by what was said by just about everybody coming out of that game. Now, we've all seen the game. We don't need to recap it. The Celtics came out. They made their threes. They made their shots. The Knicks were awful. Josh got injured early, then came back. There was foul issues for Cat and Mitch. They played Hack-a-Mitch. We all know it was a disaster. But after the game, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson kept saying the same thing. And I wanted to play it for you because I think it's important to hear it. And then especially you, Tiki, as someone that had to answer these annoying questions after losses.
All the time.
Tell me if Knick fans should be pissed about what they're saying or understand what they're saying. So let's start with Josh Hart, who to many Knick fans is considered, no pun intended, the heart of the team. Here is some of the words from Josh Hart coming out of the Game 3 loss.
Early deficit, and we got to find a way to start games better, have better energy, better pace, better physicality, and play with enough urgency, enough physicality, give them credit.
Better energy, not enough urgency. Yeah. That's Josh Hart. Let's hear from Mikal Bridges. Mikal, take it away.
That's who they are, and they knew it was going to be tough, especially, and we just, I think we might have let human nature get to us a little bit, but I think they just came out more urgent, knowing that they're down.
So he used that U word again, too. Mm-hmm. They came out and they were more urgent. Now let's hear from the captain of this team, Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, there's not a lot I could say. It's a lot that we need to discuss tomorrow and figure out, but we need to play with more of a sense of urgency.
Wow. So he went to the U word. Here's one more from Jalen Brunson.
I don't think we came with the mindset of being satisfied, but I think it was just subconsciously satisfied being up 2-0, but it's not the way we need to approach the game.
All right, so they all use the word, we didn't come out with urgency. Jalen ends it with it was subconscious that we didn't come out with that kind of urgency that we needed. It's almost like the players rehearsed before the postgame to say, this is what we should tell everybody. And I think if you're a Knick fan and you hear that, especially with how electric that arena was and how important we even discussed this game was, does that surprise you that all of them said that?
It sounds like that's what the coach said to them. This is what Tibbs said to them, which is, you guys didn't play with enough urgency. Now, he probably didn't say it as calmly and nicely as I just did. They probably got screamed at, and it's ingrained in all of their heads because their coach implored them, this matters, right? Be urgent in this game, and they didn't show it from first tip to obviously last. But the other thing that kept popping up in those quotes, those sound bites, is the human nature, complacency, satisfied. That's actually more interesting to me than the urgency part, because obviously the Boston Celtics were more urgent. They're down 0-2 going on the road. So that could be expected. But for a team that's never been to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's been a long time since the Knicks were consistently good. This is probably the first chance for a lot of, especially young basketball fans, to see the Knicks good in the last few years. But for them as players to feel satisfied, what the hell have you done? Right? What have you accomplished where you think you can just cruise? That's what's more surprising to me. Now, if they had been to the NBA Finals and they kind of knew what it took to get there, I get it. But they've never been past the second round.
Right.
So what are you satisfied with?
No, you're right.
You're satisfied with being exactly where you were a year ago? Well, it doesn't make sense to me.
What's surprising is, and Ian Begley reported this after the Knicks won Game 2, the Knicks had a calmness in their locker room after they were up 2-0. And easily they could have had a raucous celebration. They just pulled off something historic, coming back from 20 down on the road to defending reigning NBA champions. And he pointed out this is a calmness. And that was actually a good sign, that the Knicks understood, hey, this is a great start to this series, but we got a lot of work to do. So the signs weren't there of them feeling complacent being up 2-0.
No, it didn't.
And yet that performance, and then even more than the performance, because if you asked me after the game without listening to any Knick player, if you just said, hey, Evan, you watched the game, what'd you think? I would just say the Celtics didn't miss any shots. Like, it was more about the Celtics kind of fighting back, reminding you and reminding everyone else who the hell they are.
That's the bigger
more than
point.
it was the Knicks coming out saying, gee golly, who cares?
Honestly, that's the bigger point. Because in the first half, when they were down 71-46, I think it was, in halftime, just all you had to do was look at the three-point shooting. Was it 12 of 19 or whatever the heck it was? You knew eventually they would start making shots, and those 20-point leads that they blew in Game 1 and 2, they weren't going to go away.
Right.
In fact, they were just going to get inflated and get close to 40 at points on the night. If the Boston Celtics make shots, they're just better. And so how do you defend? How do you combat that if you're the Knicks? You had to be more disciplined, because a lot of those shots, we talked about them in Game 1 and 2, but a lot of those shots on Saturday were wide open looks. Wide open. Bad rotations, slow getting over, help was not there, and the Boston Celtics took advantage of it. You can only play with the line so long before it bites your head off.
Yeah.
That's basically what they did. They played with him and said, hey, we're getting away with it, so it's fine. But eventually, it wasn't fine, and the Boston Celtics showed why they're defending champions.
Now, what the Knicks could have done while the Celtics were going lights out on Saturday was not match it, because you're not going to match the Boston Celtics, but if they hit a few more shots, they're not down by 25.
Right.
If they hit a few more shots, maybe they're down by 12. And maybe late in a game in which the Celtics are feeling the heat being down 0-2, who knows? Maybe it turns badly. Like, we've made this comment last week about the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, just keep it close. If you keep the game close, you have confidence in your late game execution, and we saw that in Game 1 and Game 2. We didn't see that in Game 3 because they didn't have a chance to.
No.
Because it got run out of the gym, because it got blown out. But those comments from Bridges, from Hart, from Brunson, they surprised me, because I didn't think, coming out of that game, that they just walked out on the court and said, gee, we got this. I think they got their ass kicked by a team that we all admit is a more talented team.
Yep.
And by the way, being the more talented team doesn't mean you're going to win the series.
No.
Because the Knicks have already gotten it 2. Now they got to get 2 more. And I was just really surprised to hear that. And I can understand a Knick fan who spent a lot of money going to Madison Square Garden on Saturday and saw nothing, saying, wait a second. You lacked urgency.
Yeah.
I lacked urgency when I went to my checkings account and dropped $2,700 to go to Madison Square Garden. And you're telling me, well, self-consciously, we didn't have any urgency. We didn't want it as much. Whatever cliche you'd want. I can see how those comments would piss off the Knick fan who says, what are you talking about?
Right.
It's the playoffs against the Boston Celtics. You didn't have urgency.
Right. Don't be complacent, and don't look as bad as you did, and then come out calm. One thing I actually would have preferred is if somebody was angry. You know what I mean? If somebody was pissed off. Because I don't know if Knick fans are right now. They're not pissed off. They still feel like, we're up still 2-1. Right? It depends on what side of your brain you're thinking with. In part, you're saying, I'm mad, I'm upset, that was ugly, we have no chance, even though we're up 2-1. And then the other side says, we're up 2-1.
Right.
And we got 2 more home games. So all we have to do is take care of the business that we've done before all season long, and obviously not against the Celtics traditionally, but just win 2 more games. That's all you got to do. And so I think it creates this I don't know, this weird emotion in your brain if you're rooting for the Knicks, because you want to be upset and say, dude, we have no shot. They're going to get swept from here on out. But at the same time, all you got to do is win 2 games.
No, I think it's the right attitude to look at, because one thing about the NBA playoffs, and this goes both ways, when you're really, really excited after winning Game 1 and really, really excited after winning Game 2, and then the opposite, where you're depressed and down in the dumps after getting your ass kicked in Game 3. Every game is a different story. Every game is completely different.
Right.
So while, the Celtics couldn't miss a shot in game number 3, that doesn't mean it transfers to game number 4. Just like as awful as they were in game 1 and game 2, doesn't mean it was going to transfer into game number 3. Mm-hmm. The reality is you're in a best-of-7 series against a very talented team, a team with a championship pedigree, and you're 2 wins away from sending them home. That's the bottom line. You have to find a way to get 2 more wins. So I say this as an IBO genuinely. Like, did my view of this series alter in some kind of crazy way Saturday afternoon? Not really. Mm-mm. Because did we think the Celtics were going to go down without a fight? Like, did we think they were just going to get swept into the New York night?
Of course not.
We knew there would be a response. And what's incumbent on tonight now, and there is a name I'll bring up and say it's on him. This is the guy who needs to perform. And you could say a lot of different guys. You could bring up Karl-Anthony Towns and say, I want to see Cat dominate tonight. The guy I need to see is Jalen Brunson because he is the star of this team. He is the MVP of this team. And I said this a few weeks ago about Jalen Brunson in the midst of the Detroit series. And I'll say it again here at 2:13 on a Monday, May 12th, the anniversary of one of the most important moments in New York sports history. That's right. Today is an anniversary day. 40 years ago today. What happened 40 years ago today, Tiki?
40 years ago today?
Yeah.
I do not know.
You don't know? That's fine. Tommy, do you know what happened 40 years ago today?
My parents were getting ready to give birth to a generational talent in August.
Oh, really? Was your birthday coming up?
Yep, in August, 40 years. Other than that, I'm not sure.
That's not what I'm referring to. Sean Morash, do you know what happened 40 years ago today?
Was 40 years ago today the Knicks winning the lottery for Ewing?
It was.
Okay.
It was an amazing moment in Knicks history. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up. Knicks history has nothing to do with anything else on this wonderful lottery night.
You're channeling history on this day.
Yes, I am.
I got you.
No, but I say that because Jalen Brunson is this era's Patrick Ewing. And Jalen Brunson doesn't have bad playoff games in back-to-back nights. And Jalen Brunson, not that we put it all on him. There was a myriad of reasons why the Knicks got blown out in game number 3. But they need a superstar Herculean effort. That's what they need to respond to the champs. They need Jalen Brunson to respond in that kind of superstar way. And I don't mean to knock Jalen when I say this, because this is just the reality. Waiting until the final 6 minutes ain't going to cut it tonight.
Yeah.
And while that's amazing, and that's what's part of what makes him the king of New York, his incredible response late in games, he's the closer, he's Mariano Rivera, all the hyperbole we put on top of him. Tonight, first 8 minutes of this game, don't let the Garden get tense. Don't let the groan from Madison Square Garden, something we haven't heard in a while, because Garden fans are usually pumped. Don't give them that chance. So even if the Celtics come out like a house on fire, how about the star of this team come out like a house on fire? Because I think the best way to respond tonight is to have your superstars play like superstars. And the one superstar I trust more than any other on the floor tonight is Jalen Brunson. So I do put it on him to offer that haymaker response in a huge game 4 at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, this feels like the kind of game where Brunson needs to have 45 in order for them to win type of thing. Or you have your role players like OG actually score some points, which he hasn't done in 2 games. Or you have, Josh did it last week, so you can't, or last game, so you can't put it fully on him. But there needs to be help to him being great as well. I think that's also something that you can't discount, and it's what's gotten the Knicks through most of the season. You just have that day when Josh Hart scores 23 or Cat scores 30 as well. So if you're not doing that, Jalen Brunson can't do it by himself. And I think too many times we want to look at Jalen Brunson as the savior, but saviors can only do it if they have supporting.
No, I get you.
And you're just not seeing that.
But you know what saviors can also do? They can save.
True.
And coming off to a hot start tonight would do a big part in saving. And I think he's capable of it.
The only way he saves last Saturday's games if he scores 50.
No. Look, Saturday's game, the only thing that could have changed in Saturday's game was if they shot the basketball a lot better than they did. Maybe instead of being down by 26, they're down by 15. And you have that seeded doubt in the Celtics' minds in the second half of holding a lead.
Right.
But outside of that, no, that was just it was an awful afternoon/evening on every level. And that's why you think about tonight. Because there's nothing you can do about Game 3. It's over.
Right.
And it's its own story, much like Game 1 was its own story. And Game 2 was its own story. So we'll see if they can respond to that. We got a lot to get into concerning tonight's game. There is still a lot of people pissed off at Joe Mazzulla and his hack-a-Mitch strategy, and I can't understand why. We'll get to your calls about that. We'll get to your calls on your confidence level as we get set for a Game 4 at Madison Square Garden. And if you drop that money on Saturday, does it make you reconsider ever spending money on a sporting event ever again? The toll-free number is 888-808-1019. We'll get to some baseball later, some football later. And yes, I've even gotten the approval of Sean Morash. I've written a song for tonight's occasion.
Oh, no.
And Sean even said to me, Evan, this is one of the best songs I've ever heard.
The Nets still in the league?
Did you not say that, Sean?
I should have said one of the best AI songs I've ever heard.
That's not what you You said, Evan. I got emotional listening to that song.
I don't know that I used those words.
So coming up a little bit later on, we will debut a song for this very important night in New York sports. The New York Knicks trying to take a 3-1 lead against the Boston Celtics. The Yankees going to Seattle. Dave Sims homecoming against the Mariners. The Mets trying to beat Paul Skeens. Is there anything else I'm missing on tonight?
The hapless Nets.
Anything else that's important tonight?
Just the lottery where the 76ers make you cry.
They'll make me cry, and they'll also win me a lot of money.
That's true.
Tiki kept saying the Sixers are going to win the lottery, and finally I said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to just buy the possibility of that happening. I win money. So we got a lot to get to on this very busy Monday. We'll do it all live from the Town Fair Tire studios, powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.